All right, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to call the meeting to order. This is our Finance and Infrastructure Committee of the whole meeting for September 3rd. It's our first one that we're doing live streaming and a recorded audio of the meeting. So let's make sure council is aware of that. We'll use our intercoms as required just to make sure the sound is conveying through the system. So the approval of the agenda, we have 3 new business items. I'll request a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Fox makes a motion. All in favor. Any opposed? Motion is carried. I did want a quick mention too. Councillor Poitras is on vacation and Councillor Henniger was not able to make the meeting today. All right, so item number D1 is bylaw 2003. It's our community energy improvement tax and borrowing bylaw. And our Director of Finance, Chris Holbeck, will introduce this bylaw to us.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. Good afternoon, Council. First item on the infrastructure and finance agenda is the Community Energy Improvement Program bylaw in draft form. Once we've kind of gone over the basics of it, I will be bringing it to Council for first reading, and then we will move on to probably some public participation, public hearing, and some more readings to get this new program started. It won't start right away anyway. The first step in this is to pass the bylaw by council, and then after it is passed by council, we communicate with Alberta Munis, who administers this program, and we develop the program and the communication with the public and get kind of a plan ready to roll it out. So today we're talking about the bylaw, which is the legislative document that kind of runs this CEIP program for the town. As council knows, we have opened a separate bank account that is attached to the $2 million line of credit, which finances this program. So that's all up and running now. So we are, our second step is to pass this bylaw. So we started talking about this a few years ago. There was a large push by the Environment Committee to have this program be something that the town of Fort Macleod considered. I brought a draft bylaw to, I think, Committee of the Whole or Infrastructure and Finance in May. We kind of went over, you know, the town of Fort Macleod's thoughts on the parameters around the program. I then took those thoughts back to Stephanie Ripley, who's the program administrator with Alberta Municipalities, and I made the changes in the bylaw and then submitted them online to her. There is legislation, provincial legislation, which has certain requirements for this clean energy improvement tax and program. And so Stephanie came back to me and said, what you guys are planning, it's not within the legislative requirements. So it was the amount of the non-res loan, or the amount that we would loan them for the non-res portion. The residential portion was fine. We had wanted the residential portion about $50,000, which would be the maximum that they could come to the town and request for one of these improvements. And then we talked about maybe $5 million for the non-res / farmland applications. And there is legislation, and it has to be lower than $300,000 for non-res or farmland. So the iteration of the bylaw that you see has that change in it. So under 4.6, which is the section, 4.6 talks about the amounts that they can apply for under each of the streams for this funding. And 4.6.3 mentions that it can't be less than $3,000, so that's the minimum that they can apply for. And 4.6.4 talks about it cannot exceed $50,000 for residential or $250,000 for non-res / farmland in total project costs. So that was a change that Stephanie Ripley had me make. Her concern with having it too low for the residential one, $25,000, is that Alberta Munis charges a fee, a percentage of the application cost for them to do the work on and administer the program. And she says if it's too low, then it doesn't make any financial sense for them. And it would be ending up costing the town money. And we already pay a one-time $15,000 fee for them to administer it, but they do charge on a percentage onto the application for the work that they do there. So other than that, Stephanie was happy with the bylaw. It's quite a convoluted bylaw. There's a lot of calculations and a lot of verbiage and a lot of legalese in it, but it's the template, and Stephanie's gone over it and she's happy with it. So if council wants to discuss it today, then once we've kind of fleshed out what you're happy or unhappy with, I can go back to Stephanie, make some more changes, and then we can bring it to council for first reading, and then some public engagement and second and third reading, and then we will go back, develop the program with Alberta Munis, and then hopefully, I'm hoping we can get the program rolled out for 2026. That's my hopes. Okay, I will take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does council have questions? Councillor Monteith?
3 questions and 1 comment. I can't access this on my computer for some reason, but if you could explain 4.7, and because it's a line of credit, I presume we can replenish it. So if we get repayments of 100, we can then loan out another 100. And I'm wondering how many years to repay. And my comment is we need to understand this costs us money, because people who replace utilities cost us franchise fee. So we need to understand this.
So I will start with 4.7. This is the calculation that we use to add the cost to the tax roll. So it would be the cost of the program or the improvement. I mean, what Alberta Munis gives us the number that we have to put on their tax roll. So they do this calculation for us and they give it to us. The timeline that's proposed in this bylaw that they have to repay it is 25 years. That's what the bylaw says. And as people pay back the money and the town gets those monies back into its coffers, we would put it into a reserve, I'm thinking, or we would pay back the line of credit, because we have to pay back the line of credit. And then the program, it would kind of be like, I guess, the tax incentive program. I mean, it's going to go on for the first 25 years. I guess it's going to be, as money comes back in, then we would consider lending that money back out. So it would just keep going until council decides that they're no longer in favor of the program, and then they would rescind this bylaw, and we would let the applications that are in the stream finish out, but we would not allow any new applications to come in. And then once the program was completely finished, then we would take that $2 million line of credit and just end it, I guess, because we don't really need it for operations. We've kind of earmarked it just for this particular program. So I'm not sure if that answered all the questions, Jim, sorry.
Very good. So as soon as we have one application that's successful, we're committed for 25 years.
Yeah, that's what we have committed to.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we have all the applications come in and we run, that line of credit is tapped out in the first year, then we don't take any more applications until we've built up enough money back to offer another application.
Perhaps a waiting list of sorts, right? So if someone's interested, but there's no funds, they can be on the waiting list and they'll be the first ones to be asked if there is funds available.
Yeah, we'd have a waiting list. And Stephanie Ripley from Alberta Munis kind of did that. She did those estimates for us, kind of like what they think would be our draw from both the residential and the non-residential streams. So I think it was good information. Like, I don't know if we're gonna get there, but we have it and we will offer it, just like all of our municipal programs that we think are in the better our community, and we'll just take it day by day. Yes, we can't go above 2 million, that's our, because of our bylaw and how much I've got in that line of credit, just sitting there waiting, that's all we've got. So we could, yes, we could. Right, and so Lisa was just whispering in my ear, thanks Lisa, and it doesn't affect our debt limit, so it doesn't impact our ability to take debentures out for capital projects. And I would do a report on it like I do with tax incentive program every year. I would just let you guys know how we're doing, where we're at, just so you have kind of a general idea the success of the program.
Has this been vetted through a lawyer as well?
I haven't vetted it through a lawyer. I've just vetted it through Alberta Munis. So if you want it to go through legal, then we can send it through legal.
I didn't know that I has to, but I think that's been practice, but I think administration can.
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt. Every community, like we kind of put this bylaw together based on Alberta Munis and other communities' bylaws, so it wouldn't hurt for our lawyer to take a look at it. I know the lawyers, our legal team took a look at our tax incentive bylaws, both of them. Well, the first one anyway, and then the application also. But I think because we don't administer this, Alberta Munis does all that background paperwork, so they've got their own legal team that have done the applications and the processes back there. And I think our concern would just be our bylaw.
Yeah, the only comment on the structure of the bylaw, like, I've not seen where it went to 4.32, like having 3,200 items under the same heading. Looks like it gets very long to be able to find something. But I didn't know if there's ways to kind of separate it a little bit so people kind of know how better to find where things are at.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it now that if the bones of it are good for council, and we'll make it more user friendly and put sections in and make it more helpful. Yeah, helpful for both administration and the public. Thank you.
Councillor Monteith has another question.
I presume that on our balance sheet, it'll show us restricted cash and loans receivable, and on the other side would be the bank loan?
Yeah, that sounds about right, Jim. Sorry, I'm just trying to make
So
the T
and
accounts. in my
probably
head.
under the 3 notes to the financial statement, right? Great.
More notes the better, isn't that what you said? All right. Any other thoughts, comments on the bylaw? The bones of it, I think, is what we're being asked. Does it make sense? I think the principle, I think we still agree with. And the bylaw is putting into practice. The principle. Any other thoughts, comments? Did you need any other feedback from us? Were you good for now? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, and we have water rate changes, and we'll ask our Director of Operations to introduce, and along with Curtis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we've spoken about this before, and I guess we'll go through some information today. The last time we spoke about it, the Mayor and Council had asked that we look at some more details on what the average family water use was, and some more, I guess, perspective on that. So we'll go through some slides just talking a little bit about this. But essentially what we're looking at is that for today, the council receives the information as information, and that we prepare bylaw 1990, which is water utility services, and bylaw 1991, which is the sewer utility services, to be brought forward in a regular council meeting for first reading and to look at implementation for 2026 for these rate changes. I guess just on a high level before we jump into the slides, we are looking at updating some of the rates. We're looking to lower the flat rate and raise the consumption rate. And also with the consumption rate for water, we're going to be looking at a ladder system. So the more water you're using, the cost for that water increases. And we're looking at mostly high users that are overusing water for residential, but also on the commercial side, looking at commercial users that are using a lot of potable water. They're using that for profit on that water. We're hoping that this will further encourage users to reduce overconsumption, and by putting more weight into the consumption rate instead of the flat rate, that'll give more control to the users as far as what that bill will be. We'd also like to set this up and hopefully ensure that we have capacity in the future for the town's growth. So just looking at the slides. I'll just go off the list here. So a rate comparison. So where it started, we did do a rate comparison, I believe, back in 2022. 2021. And there was a plan for different changes that happened over the next few years. So there would be different changes in the rates. The first year was done and the rates were changed, and then there was the following changes were not completed, the following changes to the rates. So what we're looking at is Curtis has done an updated check on the averages. And so as you look at a rate comparison, we're looking at this comparing Fort Macleod with the commercial and residential water flat rates, as well as consumption rates. And so as you look at these, Fort Macleod, for example, in commercial, we're charging out a flat rate of $45.46 and a consumption rate at $1, whereas the average, the flat rate is lower at $36.49, and the consumption rate is higher at $1.62. So you can also see that on the residential side. Again, looking at some averages, Fort Macleod, we're charging out $40.87 with, again, a consumption rate at 1, where the average for commercial is much lower at $28.50, and then again, a higher rate for consumption. So the numbers were done in comparison with similar sized communities and looking at those averages in those areas. So these are the proposed water changes. The primary focus is on the water, and so we're mostly going to be talking about that, and we'll touch on the waste as well. So when we're looking at residential flat rates, so you can see the comparison between 2025 this year and what's proposed for 2026. So again, the flat rates are being reduced, and you can see in the different categories, and this is all listed out in the same table, in the same format as what's in our current bylaw. And then the non-residential flat rates as well. Consumption for 2025 over on the right-hand side currently is at $1, and then you can see the ladder system listed underneath that. So 2026, we'll move that up to $1.25 for the first 100 meters cubed, and then $1.50 for the next 150 after that first 100, and then anything beyond that will be $1.75. The out of town, and sorry, those ladders are both for residential and commercial, so they'll have the same rates and the same limits on those ladders. Then for out of town, we have a few customers that are out of town, and so we're looking at essentially just doubling the cost of what the resident is paying for out of town customers. Other line items that we're looking to change, So you can see again there, bulk water per meter cubed, we're leaving the same. But some services, thawing a water service, moving from a flat rate of $100 to $100 an hour. There's some water installation services or water service installation rates. It's when looking at it and discussing with our town crews, it doesn't make sense that we're essentially doing the same work and having different rates when really it doesn't matter so much what those sizes are. We're still doing the same work, so we're moving those all up to $5,000 instead of kind of a different tier per trench. So I just want to, just the last thing there, and what's going to be looking at both for the water and for the sewer is that we would like to make these adjustments, and then going forward, instead of having kind of these big jumps, that we look at a 2% increase annually, and then we can review that as we get a few years down the road, just to make sure that that keeps making sense. Thanks, Miranda. So as part of the request, we did want to talk a little bit more on what that would mean, what the average family is using for water, and how that affects them. So this is just a visualization of a cubic meter of water. So we oftentimes talk about a dollar per cube, or what that rate is. So just looking at that, that is 1,000 liters of water. Just an image there to kind of get perspective on that. So, and some numbers that found, just kind of to give you an idea, that's kind of approximately equal to 14 loads of laundry or 33 dishwasher loads, 28 showers, over 100 toilet flushes, or 1,000 fills of one liter water bottle. So just some perspective on how much water we're talking about. This one, so Curtis was able to look into what the average home and lot was looking at for water consumption. And so we'll just talk about this a little bit. So a lot, 99 by 66, the lawn needs approximately 1 to 1.5 inches of water per week. And so if you had just a lot that you were just watering the grass on that lot, you're looking to use about 60 to 90 meters cubed per month. So the standard home, and we picked some conservative numbers, or Curtis did. So a house, 950 square feet footprint, a garage at 400 feet squared, and then the sidewalk, driveway, other structures on the lawn would take up some of that area. So then you're looking at a watering of the lawn of about 35 to 53 meters cubed per month. And then occupancy, looking at how many people are actually living in your home, on average you're using about 4 meters cubed per month per person. So that's just to give you kind of an idea of what we're looking at. And when you look at the ladder, that's why we chose a higher value, where the first increase in the actual cost is over 100 meters cubed. So we feel that conservative use and kind of being able for people to maintain their lawns and those kinds of things will still be well with under that 100 meters cubed, where that price goes up. So looking at residential impact, and in your packages you do have a PDF that shows the different residential and commercial users. So these are just the summary pictures at the bottom of those full spreadsheets where you can look at that. But essentially the color coding on those spreadsheets, if you're using less than 100 meters cubed, it's in the green. Between 100 and 250, which is the second tier on that ladder, would be in yellow, and then over the 250 in red. A calculation that Curtis also made was looking at residents that would actually save money. So when we think of saving money, that's on your bill with the reduction in the flat rate, and then the increase in the consumption rate. So for residential, that's you'll save money if you're using less than about 49.5 meters cubed. And so if you look at the percentages kind of on the side, you can see that there's a summer month and a winter month for perspective and for water use in your yards and those kinds of things. But there is a vast majority of residents that would save money on their monthly bill as consumption is right now. And then again, the same thing for commercial impact. Again, with the sheet, the numbers are the same. The ladder was going to be the same. In this case, to save money, you're looking at using less than 36 meters cubed, but still a large percentage of even the commercial users that would be saving money just through their normal use. So that's the kind of the summary and what we would like, and we can take any questions, but hopefully that helps to make more sense of what we're looking at, kind of the people that will be impacted, and our focus of what we're trying to do is to, based on that example household, is we're seeing like the major users would be using more water than was actually necessary, we feel, to keep your lawn up and those kinds of things. There shouldn't be any direct impact on those people that are using it in normal use. And then also focusing on those high-end users, both commercial and residential, where that latter would actually take effect.
Very good. Thank you very much. Does council have any thoughts, comments, feedback to start? Councilman Teeth.
I understand this, and I worked it out on my own, and it would cost me $15 in consumption, and I'd save 12. So that's much better than I thought. But my concern and my thought process, and I thought about this a lot, is keep cutting the flat rate to me doesn't make sense. Because just because Joe Blow doesn't use any water or very little water doesn't mean he doesn't need all the infrastructure we've put in over the years. So I think we need to have a flat rate somewhat stable for the big projects, even if we have to reserve it or whatever, because at some point we're going to have to invest. And it can't all be on consumption, because even people not using it need the service. So they should be paying an appropriate amount for having access to the system. So I'm not real keen on cutting the flat rate. The last time we did it, I'm not sure conservation followed. And I wondered about conservation versus beautification, because it seems to me the last time we didn't get conservation, yet we had a whole lot of people who weren't watering and their lawns looked just like yuck. So I have a little problem there if that's a major concern, because I don't think it's going to happen. And then I'm just wondering, how does all this affect the profitability of the water system? Have we done the calculations?
I can touch on the profitability. We upgraded you were around in 2020, 2021 when we did the tabletop exercise, and profitability is the same. We've calculated to be roughly the same year over year. We have added, you can add for conservation. So we actually did it to the point where if it was, I think we did about 15% reduction over 3 years, you would still, at that third year with 15% less water being used, you'd still make the same revenue. So we did calculate for profitability moving forward.
So how do you calculate the cost saving by conserving water? Like, can you quantify that?
That would be pretty easily done. Whatever consumption less usage and times it by your dollar value per cube.
does that answer your questions, or?
I'm just want to make sure we're not losing on the deal. And I'm just wondering if we push conservation, are we actually saving money? Or, no, I can see we can save money on your variable costs, but the fixed costs aren't going to change with less usage.
So if I understand correctly, what you're asking, Councilor Monteith, is if we don't make the changes, what would the department look like? And if we didn't make these changes, what does the profitability look like for 26? Is that what I'm hearing? Any other thoughts? I had a couple questions on the install rates. I probably asked that before. That's strictly if there's no curb stop and we have to go directly into the water line, is that correct? Like the installation rate for the water service. That doesn't include if there's already a curb stop, correct?
That would be a question for our public works. Full transparency on that, when I went and talked with him, he's not even really sure where those separate rates came from. It's just that's what they did. He's like, we're digging a hole. The only real difference in costs would be the materials, which is just PVC piping of a different size, which ultimately is not, it's very minor in the overall cost of things.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a residential lot in St. McLeod's Landing, because the service is already there. It's just if you want to tie in through the street, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, it's the actual tie in to a system. Yeah, to like turn on your water, we don't charge $5,000.
And then the thawing, does that happen often, this thawing service? To me, $100 an hour seems pretty cheap.
Yes, but it's a lot more than just $100 that we were charging, because they usually send 2 to 3 people, and it takes multiple hours for them to do it. There's a list within the office of 20 or 30 locations around town that just have shallow services, and when you get that deep freeze, they do freeze up, which is why you might recollect town every once in a while going certain areas, run the water ever so slightly. And one year we actually had everybody, because it got so deep that we had ones that never thought or froze before freeze up. So
that's $100 an hour per person then? Is that what that means?
just $100 per hour for this service.
Yeah, and you guys would know what defines the service start and stop, obviously. It just seemed a little low because it's got to be a lot of work, some of that. Any other thoughts, questions? So, see over there.
One of the things that we've been considering talking about, just when it comes to like conservation, and looking at the future of our growing community, and trying to implement a few things that do encourage people to use a little bit less, might help us stretch out the capacity that our water and wastewater treatment plants can fulfill for our community. As we see, things are growing, things are happening. We obviously have a lot of capacity from where we are now, but you see some communities that have grown really quick, and oftentimes that's one of the things that halts you. Is your water treatment plant, your wastewater treatment plant, whether or not you can handle that capacity. So trying to implement a few things that can get us thinking about it, and okay, if I reduce a little bit, sure, maybe it only, everyone does a small bit because it's slightly more expensive to do so. That could help us increase a little bit on our capacity as well. That's one of the biggest pieces for me on this, on this item.
Yeah, so I guess still following up with Councilor Monteith, if the profitability of the water service goes really high, do we have a plan how those surpluses get used? That would be the intent then, right?
Yeah, we don't have it formalized. What we've discussed, and I think with council kind of informally, is setting up a reserve. We talked with the city of Lethbridge not too long ago, and they actually keep things a little more separate. So the water treatment plant will, every year they do send this much money to administration, then the rest of it stays in the water treatment plant. And so it's reserves, it's maintenance, it's all the stuff. And so there's a set amount because, you know, there's a little bit of sharing going on, but it doesn't just all go into the pot and then get paid for. And so that's something that I think is really valuable, especially where we are and where every municipality ends up needing new, very expensive infrastructure. Cardston right now is just going through that, getting new wastewater or new water. I can't remember now, actually, if it was wastewater or water treatment plant. But yeah, big dollars.
One or the other, I think it's number 15 million that they're putting into that or something.
Yeah, and then they've been fortunate to get some grants and things, but it's still, I think I'm glad this is recorded now, so I have to be careful. I thought they put in at least like an 8 million of their own or something like that, 6 to 8 million of their own, and then they got a big grant and some other funding as well.
Very good. Any other thoughts on the minimum flat rate? Is council more interested in keeping that at a minimum amount so it doesn't go lower than a certain amount, or leave it as per the recommendation?
I think we should look at leaving the flat rate and doing the extra that we're charging vis-a-vis what they've come up with and put it in reserve.
At least coming up, because in my mind, the flat rate should take care of almost the infrastructure rates to the building, and then the consumption is more the plant itself. Because that's the operational part of the water, but those are just thoughts. So I don't know what else you would need from us today. I think more or less you're looking for some feedback on the numbers, correct? And then where we would go for next steps.
Yeah, and what we're hoping is that we can, so in your package as well, we do have a rough draft of the changes to both of the bylaws. We're working to clean those up and kind of get that so that it's in better shape with the information there. But we were looking to move that into first reading at the next regular council meeting.
Anything else council would like to see before it comes back to council for first reading? Some financial protections, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, if we could just know where what we're looking at, because that affects tax rates and everything. And maybe the calculation of if we did keep the flat rate the same and put into reserves, how much are we talking? Just so that we know.
Is that a fair request?
Yep, we can do that.
I imagine the bylaws need to be passed by when for them to be implemented for 2026? Before December, right? Before the end of December or before that? December at the latest? So are we thinking before the election or after the election?
I guess it's up to you. If council wants that bylaw changed and some projections done, if you want the flat rate to stay the same as the flat rate is now and not lower it, and us to run some projections, then yeah, it'll probably be after. Yeah, it'll be after.
Yeah, and I don't think council's saying that that's what we want. We just want to understand what the implication would be if it was left the same, if I understand correct. But, yeah, I know we have how many council meetings left before election? 2? So either way, I don't think we can pass it before the election, correct? So 3? Oh, yeah, sorry. This is the first one, so 3. So we need a public hearing or no? So public hearing is there notice? It can be the next council meeting, correct? I think we could still do first reading on Monday, and then after that, do some more number crunching.
We could, yeah.
But don't you have a public hearing after the first reading?
Yeah,
So if we do that without knowing what we're doing, we have a public hearing and then we change it, that doesn't look too good either.
yeah, I would agree that if we had minor changes, that's not a big deal, but if we're looking at like kind of a different theology and how we want to, you know, just how much we're looking to come from this kind of profitability wise, yeah, I'd be hesitant to put it through first reading if we didn't have it closer to what council wants it to be. I mean, unless council's kind of thinking, oh, this seems about right, and we just want to know what these other scenarios are, which we could come up with. But if we're looking at bigger changes, I'd hesitate to do first reading.
I don't think there's any concerns with the consumption rate, from what I understand. It's more just the impact of the flat rate. So.
Okay.
But council's comments before the election or after the election? Let future council decide, or do you guys want to decide in the last? Yeah. Yeah.
It looks to me like it's going to be after. And if our thinking is proper, the new council should agree, right?
Hey, we can do some more research, so if next council has a little bit of that pre-work done for them, and then it should be pretty easy to do after the election. Doesn't mean we can't do first reading before the election, right? Because I think trying and doing everything after would be a little tight too. Because I don't know how many council meetings after election before the end of the year. So I think either way, we probably have to do a bit of a hybrid.
Yeah,
Next council might have to deal with it second and third reading after the election.
probably, yeah. Well, mathematically, yes, we have to do that. If we want to, we have to get it before January.
Yeah, so if Min can look into it, and if we do need to do another meeting, for example, then we could always do that too. Okay, but otherwise, I think general consensus is we want future council to be in agreement, and go from there. All right, if that's all on this topic, then we'll move on to the third item, which is the Northern and Regional Economic Development Program, and our CAO, Anthony, will speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we are, and by we, Daniela is heading this one up, looking at getting a airport planning and feasibility study done, and we're hoping to use the Northern and Regional Economic Development Program for this study. Studies cost around $25,000. This grant has the potential of covering half of that. So this will just help in our development, the future planning for the airport. We have reviewed some of the other plans that other communities have received, which helps them even for some of their future projects, because we were investigating some grants that we could get, but you can't get them unless you have a study done first. So yeah, so this is pretty simple. I think council would, I imagine you guys would be on board for us to pursue this grant, and then we can move forward with getting a bit of a planning document for the airport. As we've noticed, the airport, you know, kind of growing into it, but formalizing a little more about what next steps are, and so the users can know what's coming and not only, there's obviously the neighborhood there, Airport Properties too, can know kind of the timelines that it'll continue to develop. So, yeah, that's about it. Any questions?
Council have any thoughts, comments, questions? Councillor Monteith?
If we do development, et cetera, is the only income the sale of the lots and any taxes on that?
Correct. Now, yeah, so the sale of those lots and the property taxes of those would be what we'd hope would be funding the maintenance and the future of the airport.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? And do you need a motion to apply for the grant, or is this just as information for now?
This would just be information for now. We don't have, well, we have to see where we would pull it out of the budget if this was going to happen in 2025. If it's going to wait till 26, we just include it in the budget. So if we need additional budget room, yes, we would bring it forward as a motion to make sure that we have the amount to pay for the study, or at least our portion of the study. But otherwise, if it waits till 26. With Daniela, I don't imagine she's planning on waiting till 26. She's rip roaring and ready to go, which is good. So we'll have to see what the budget lines say.
Next year is not that far away. Yeah. All right, motion to accept as information. Councillor Fox makes that motion. No motion required, do you think?
Committee of the whole. You don't make
Okay,
motion.
Right.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's the first
So we
one.
make motions, they're just not.
It's all right.
All right, so we have this as information. We'll proceed to discuss and see it at the next council meeting. And there is nothing else on our agenda, so the meeting is adjourned.